to Good Morning Gwinnett, a division of Noise Media Network, hosted by Audrey Bell Kearney, sharing stories about people and places around beautiful Gwinnett County and beyond. Monday through Thursday at 10 a.m. Southern living at its best.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, all my Gwinnetians out there in Gwinnett land and all of you around the world. Listen to the sound of my voice. It's a beautiful day here in Gwinnett County. It's 60 degrees going up to a high of 72, so that's pretty nice. But here's the thing. Tomorrow, I'll be in Arizona. I am going to Sedona tomorrow. I'm excited about that. I'm also going to be in Phoenix as well, and I get a chance to see my baby brother, who I haven't seen in a minute. So that's going to be nice as well. Just happy to be able to go and check him out and see what he's doing. But I'm super duper happy about Sedona. I've been trying to get to Sedona for a minute. And here's why. I saw a movie called Sedona. I was watching Netflix one night and I saw this movie called Sedona. And I was like, I need to go to Sedona. And because all I saw was like red rocks and she was trying to get her life together and she was becoming zen and all that. I was like, I need to go to Sedona. And I've been saying that probably for 3 years. And every time I want to go, you know, I always want to go for my birthday. My daughter be like, why you want to go to the desert for your birthday? So I've gone to Florida twice. And each time I've gone to Florida for my birthday, it was cold both times. So I'm not going to Florida next year for my birthday. And I probably won't go to Sedona either since I'm going today for Mother's Day. Y'all know this is going to be a pretty strange Mother's Day for me because my mom is not here with me and that breaks my heart. But I'm trying to stay positive because I have my daughter and I have my granddaughter and, you know, I love them both just as much. But I got to tell you, this is going to be weird for me because my mom, you know, normally on Mother's Day, we're planning something. Let's go to dinner. Let's go something. And my mom's birthday is also this month. So that's another thing. As well as Marvin. Marvin's birthday is this month. So, you know, I'm pretty sure that's going to be pretty devastating for my daughter because both her grandparents are gone. They both celebrate a birthday in the same month. Marvin's birthday is the 23rd. My mom's birthday is the 27th. And so it's going to be a little bit rough. But we'll get through it because God has been pulling us through. It's been a rough time. You know, pulling us through. But anyway, I don't want to make anybody sad today, but I'm going to Sedona and I'm going to just relax and chill out with my daughter. So I'm excited about it. And I get to see my baby brother, which is kind of cool. Not kind of cool, which is really cool because I haven't seen him for a minute. All right, so today is National Beverage Day. So if you like beverages, you can get you a beverage and Crepe Suzette Day. So if you like crepes, you can have just do what you want to do. Pray, because it's National Day of Prayer. So pray before you eat, pray before you drink. Have a good day. It's also National Nurses Day. So I want to give a shout out to all of the nurses around the world who have been on the front line for over a year, making sure that we're protected, and want to give a rest in heaven shout out to ones who were on the front line and the COVID kind of destroyed their lives and their family lives. But we appreciate you and love you guys for standing there. When my mom was in the hospital, she had an amazing group of nurses that kept me so informed about what was going on with her at the time. And, you know, she was at Gwinnett Medical and they were just a great, even the doctors were good. They called us. They answered all our questions. They answered the call when we called. And so I want to give a shout out to all the nurses. Happy National Nurse Day. All right, let's get on with your horoscopes, brought to you by noted astrologer Micah Thyssen. My throat is itching right now, which is crazy. It's these allergies. I know. Hopefully I can get through the whole interview. Let's get on with our horoscopes. Today is Thursday, May the 6th. We're going to kick it off like we always do, and that is with Aries. You must make unnecessary changes today. Must not make unnecessary changes today. Use your quick wit to win points and friends. This is a great day for a family outing or just a drive. Sometimes you need that. Just get in your car, take a long drive. If you're down south, get on a country road and just drive. I do that. Rosebud, if you go down Rosebud, so for those of you who don't know, Rosebud is this road that starts in Grayson and it goes straight through to Conyers. So if you want a nice country drive, get on Rosebud and just drive. It's going to take you straight to Conyers. But it's like a nice long country road. Taurus, problems with ear, nose, or throat are likely. You may have a problem with coworkers if you try to tell them what to do. Short trips will be educational. Listen, Taurus, stop being bossy, Taurus. Don't try to tell people what to do today. Let them do their own thing. Let them make their own mistakes. Sometimes you just got to do that. Just fall back. Fall back. Gemini, disappointments regarding partners will be subject to the way you react to their personal comments. A better diet, exercise, or a change to a relaxed atmosphere could always soothe your nerves. Yes, Sedona. You can elaborate on your creative ideas and get involved in groups that relate to your arts. Very cool. Speaking of that, I am one of the co-founders of the Gwinnett Film and Entertainment Commission. We're going to be talking about that soon. We are a commission focused on creating more opportunities in the film and entertainment space here in Gwinnett County. So I am one of the co-founders. I am the podcast commissioner. We have a film commissioner, a music commissioner, a podcast commissioner, an event planning commissioner, and we have a TV commissioner coming on board. So we are doing some great things here. And streaming media, I forgot, streaming media commissioner. We have a nice commission, and we all have our own separate roles to play in the commission. And it's so funny because we was in a commission meeting yesterday, and so one of the members said, he always said we are them. So we are them. So if you go to GFEC.info, you'll find out more about the Gwinnett Film and Entertainment Commission there. Cancer, travel for business or pleasures. Don't exaggerate. You may be upset if someone has borrowed something that belongs to you. Listen, every time I see anything that says don't exaggerate, that's pretty much saying stop lying. Don't lie. Don't lie. Because when you start exaggerating, you're lying. Unless you're just putting a whole lot of emphasis on what you're saying. When you start adding in stuff and taking out stuff, you're lying. Call it an exaggeration. I call it a lie. So don't do that today. Leo, you should be traveling to the exotic destination you've been dreaming about. Sedona. You would best to do something energetic with your friends. Use diplomacy to get your point across delicately. Okay, Leo, because Leo, you could be a little rough sometimes with the way you deliver, what you're saying. I've been told that. I've been told that I'm a little rough sometimes with the way I deliver certain things. I don't mean to be, unless you piss me off. That's different. Virgo, you can make money through creative efforts. Although it does look promising, be careful not to overextend yourself or you will lose in the long run. You may be frazzled today. Listen, you may be frazzled, Virgo. Take a minute. Matter of fact, take two. Take 2 minutes. Take some deep breaths. Close your eyes. Meditate for a second. Listen, you can meditate for 5 seconds and feel better. Just stop. Sometimes you just have to do that as well. I know. Sometimes you don't want to do that. All right, I'm going to a song. I'll be right back after the song to give you more of the rundown of what's going on in and around Gwinnett County. No, the horoscopes. I'm already jumping the gun. I'll be back to bring you the horoscopes. Stay tuned.
Time goes by and yet I wonder, are you and me still the same? Are you still loving the game? I know I don't. You cast your spell and I went under. I know the laughter and the pain. Will I ever love again? I don't know if I can take it anymore. So I stay here and hold my heart when you walk out the door. Made a promise to myself and I repeat it in my head. Set your mind free. Set your mind free. No one knows what I've been through, but this is the end of me and you. Set your mind free. Made a promise to myself, this time I will keep it. Where there's a will, yeah, there's a way. With every smile, with every tear, I know I will make it. I'm gonna see a brighter day. Oh, oh, oh. Why do we put each other through hell? Why can't we just get over ourselves? I know I should. You cast your spell and I went under. I know the laughter and the pain. Will I ever love again? I don't know if I can take it anymore. Yeah, so I stay here and hold my heart when you walk out the door. Yeah. And I repeat it in my head. Set your mind free. Set
Welcome back. It's your girl, Audrey Bell Kearney, giving you the daily horoscopes brought to you by Know the Astrologer Micah Thies. And we're going to pick it up like we always do, and that is with Libra. All right, Libra, put your energy into behind-the-scenes activities. Opportunities for romance will develop through activities with large groups. You are best not to confront situations that deal with in-laws or relatives. Don't piss the in-laws off. Listen, don't piss your relatives off either. Just go have some fun. Go have some activities, especially if you're looking for romance. There's an opportunity for you there, but you got to go out with the group. Can't go out by yourself. Not today. Maybe tomorrow. Not today. Scorpio. Insincere gestures of friendliness are likely to occur. Use your charm, but don't be phony. You might want to spend some time by yourself in order to decide exactly how you feel. Don't be phony, Scorpio. People going to see right through you. Not today. They're going to see you. Sagittarius. You may not be as reserved on an emotional level as you like. Opportunities to travel will be favorable, Sedona. In terms of money-making connections, hopefully. You should make special plans for your lover. Yeah, make some special plans. Cook a nice dinner today. I got to bowl tonight, so that's my special plan tonight before I travel. I got to go bowling tonight. That's cool, because the season is almost over. I don't know what I'm going to do when the season is over. Y'all know I'm a professional bowler. Professional being, yeah, we don't even get into that right now. Capricorn. Call someone you haven't seen in a long time. Get out and enjoy some entertainment. Get them to pitch in if you need help. Just ask. Raise your hand. Hey, I need some help. And they probably will pitch in, but you got to ask them. You know what I mean? You got to ask. Let me tell y'all something. I think I told y'all this story before. When I was in Jersey, I was on radio, and my show was called the Ask Audrey Show. And you know how you've been talking a certain way for so long, so you just don't pay attention. So when you say things, people know what you're saying. Well, my producer of the show, his name was Bob. He was so funny. Bob was the producer of my show. And so when I first started the show, I would say ask. I would say ask Audrey. He was like, and he was very particular about pronunciation. So he probably would have a fit, because sometimes I'm on this show, I'm talking so fast, I'm just saying stuff. I said ask Audrey. He's like, it's not ask. And I'm like, what is he talking about? He says ask. So I had to practice saying ask, because I used to always say ask. That's what I would say. He said, and then a lot of people say that. A lot of people don't say, a lot of people say ask. A lot of people say ask, because it's the ask. But that's the country in me. It's all right. Aquarius, it's a good time for long-awaited relationships to begin. Entertainment should include the whole family or a lot of your friends. You can enjoy entertainment if you join in and follow the crowd for a change. All right, listen. I understand the crowd, the whole family. Be safe. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to leave it right there. Be safe. Use good judgment. Be safe. That's all I'm saying. Last but not least, my fellow fish Pisces. Emotionally, things may not run as smoothly. Don't use emotional blackmail on someone you love. Don't let your love put demands on you. Ooh, listen, fish. Don't be trying to blackmail folks today. I'm not blackmailing anybody, because that junk is going to come back, and karma is a motherfreaker, right? Emotionally, things may not run as smoothly. I don't claim that, fish. I don't know about you, but I'm not claiming that. I'm claiming that everything today is going to be smooth as butter. I was watching this show. I was at my daughter's house yesterday. You know, she did my hair. So she did my hair yesterday because I'm going to the desert, and it's probably really hot. So I needed a low hairdo. Like, I didn't have to do anything to it, so she did my hair. But we were watching this show called The Circle, and one of the people in The Circle, he said spread love on like butter. I thought that was so cute. But anyway, you don't do anything. Listen, don't let your emotions mess you up today. Just make them smooth like butter. Just claim it. My emotions are going to be smooth like butter. I'm claiming that, fish. You claim it too. All right, that's all the horoscopes I got for you today. I'll be back again on Monday, because remember, today is my Friday. I'll be back on Monday to bring you more of the horoscopes brought to you by Know the Astrologer Micah Thies. Now let's get on with the show. This is what y'all been waiting for. I already know. My guest today is Mark Deal. Mark Deal is the founder of Podcast Guest Academy. He's also the founder of Podcast Editors Academy. He's also the organizer for Podcast Atlanta. He's also a podcast host. He also helped podcasters produce branded podcasts. He is the podcast master here in Georgia. I'm just trying to be like him when I grow up. So without further ado, welcome to the show, my good friend, Mr. Mark Deal. Good morning.
Hey, hello, Audrey, and good morning, Gwinnett.
Hey. So glad to be here with you this morning.
I'm happy to be here.
So how's everything going? I know we haven't seen each other since Podfest, I think.
Right. In fact, I was looking at today's date. It's May 6th, and it was exactly 14 months ago when I had the pleasure to have you up on stage and speak at the first ever podcast editors conference. Since then, we've done a couple of virtual things, but that was 14 months ago. And I realized that was a big conference. We were in person. The whole thing was starting to get newsworthy. It wasn't declared a pandemic yet. And I had hand sanitizers everywhere and buy the coffee and all that because I'm like, hey, I'm from Atlanta, and this stuff is about to get real. People were laughing at us. But yeah, it's been 14 months since we saw each other.
That's so crazy.
It was. It is. And I know you and some members of your team were at my events in January and February. And looking at those pictures, we had like 100 people, either packed into. One was at Microsoft, and the other one was at this venue with the stage, and people sitting next to each other, watching folks on. Looking at those pictures, just in April and May of last year, like, wow, that. Things have changed.
I mean, they change quickly. It's so funny as you say that because I remember when we were at Podfest, I was sitting next to a lady, and we kind of had just got the word, but it was like 1,000 people at Podfest, and this woman was sitting next to me. She was from the UK, and she coughed, and I did like this. And I was saying to myself, I hope she doesn't see me. So it was hand sanitizers on all the tables. I got the hand sanitizer. I scooted it over, and I was like, so she passed a business card. It was crazy. I was scared to take it, but that's where we were 14 months ago, and now we're a little bit better, I guess. I guess so. Me, I lost people, like 3 people, so that was rough. But we've been I've been making it through. God is good, and that's all I can say about that.
Yeah, honestly, you've been an inspiration to myself and probably many of us, because a lot of us have been negatively impacted. And not to say that the scale you have, but the fact that you still get up every morning, you put a smile on your face, and you're still serving others, and like here on Good Morning Gwinnett, and it tells the rest of us, like, hey, get off your lazy bum and do something. The world may smack you down, but it's your job to get back up. So thank you for being that inspiration.
Thank you so much. My mom was like that. My mom was a fighter, and right up until her last minute, she was a fighter, and she knew that I loved doing Good Morning Gwinnett. I think I probably told this story before, but I didn't know she listened to the show every day. My daughter said to me, she's like, no, Nana listened to the show every day. So the day she passed away like 5:15 on January 5th. And I was in such a mess. I was like, I'm not going to do the show. My husband said, no, do the show. She would definitely want you to do the show. And I did the show, and I felt good afterwards. I was still sad, but I felt good afterwards. So I know she's looking down on me saying, good work, girl, good work. And she's always said it to me. She's like, you're my rock. And I'm like, no, you're my rock. So that was my heart. But anyway, let's get on with our show. So now give us a little background, because I gave them all your podcasting background. Give us a little background of where you came from and how you got into the podcasting space.
Sure. I was in the Navy. In fact, I was a Navy nuke. My job was to pour water over hot rocks to make energy, to push stuff through the water and make electricity. I did that for about 6 years and got out and did my undergrad in electrical engineering and grad school MBA here at Emory in Atlanta. And I worked at General Electric for about 12 years in their power industry. I co-founded a company that did business planning and documents for foreign nationals that wanted to come and invest in the U.S. and was working with immigration attorneys to help serve their clients. Well, it turns out that when the attorneys got the work, my firm and my team of 13 people got the work. When the attorneys did not get the work, we didn't get the work. So back in 2013, I started a podcast showcasing the work that these attorneys are doing. And since I'm not an attorney, I had an interview format that basically took their knowledge and experience and boiled it down in a way that, me, a pretty dumb person, could understand, and that way my listeners could understand. Well, that show took off, and I really enjoyed the medium, much like you do, as I can see. So I handed the keys over to the company I co-founded and said, I want to do more of this podcasting and new media stuff. And then that's how I got into all the podcasting credentials that you rattled off earlier.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So I think my video is frozen. Can you hear me?
I can.
oh, my video is frozen though. It looks crazy. I'm like, I'm just sitting there. And I can't do anything except for wait till it unfreezes itself. But as long as you guys can hear me, I'm really live, but you can't see it. I don't know what's going on. That's weird. I'm freaking out. But anyway, so you've been in podcasting since 2013. I started around 2009. Share with the audience where we've come from since 2000. Because I know when I started, it was just Blog Talk Radio. And then all of a sudden, Blog Talk became kind of obsolete because Lipson and Blueberry and all those guys popped up alongside it. Where have we come from since then?
Well, in the realm of media host, and what you're talking about, Audrey, is in places where you put your podcast file so that others can download it, consume it, subscribe it, those sorts of things. Those have come a long way since I started in 2013, and since you have in 2009 with Blog Talk Radio. It's come quite a long way. Now, not only are you able to consume it on your smartphones and subscribe in podcast players, but they're embedded options. In fact, I know you use Spreaker, and Spreaker has a live podcasting option to where folks can call in or folks can listen live, and that wasn't traditional in the podcast sense, but has since come about. As well as the ability to share podcast snippets on social media. Now, hosts are adding more and more stuff. So, you and I here in Metro Atlanta, obviously the beverage of choice is Coca-Cola, and if it's not, then you're wrong. But that being said, the best thing that happened to Coca-Cola was Pepsi, and because of Pepsi, Coca-Cola kept reinventing itself and basically being a better sugary drink, I suppose. And I see that happening a lot in the podcasting space with hosting providers and everything else from...
Oh, shit.
It looks like you may have dropped off, but I'm going to keep going.
Thank you so much. It's so crazy because I'm like saying to myself, what in the world just happened? But I'm back.
No worries. I can stand up on stage and speak for about an hour. But for these podcast interviews, I like to keep things conversational because, if I disconnect with you, with the host, I disconnect with the listeners, in this case, viewers, and all those people. So, I don't want to do that. But I notice technology, sometimes hiccups, you dropped off. So, I'll keep going.
Thank you so much. Blog Talk was the first one that came out, but now we have some great platforms. And we're doing some great things. I know with you, Podcast Guest Academy has been one of your babies. And there are so many people who don't understand why this medium is so powerful. And I try to talk about it and explain to them, listen, this is media. Like every day, this is media. And so if you're a business owner, if you're trying to get a message out, this is a wonderful platform for that. So the title of this show today is From Boring to Soaring. Let's talk about what that means.
Well, there are, as of about a month ago, there are over 2 million podcasts in the Apple Podcast directory. That's quite a lot. Certainly an uptick from 2013 when I started, and maybe from the dozen or shows that were around when you started in 2009. So the listeners have lots of options. And in every show, there's multiple episodes. And those multiple episodes, there's many options, right? You can listen to the latest one, or you can go further back in the catalog. So if you're going to be a podcast guest, come on to somebody's show, which of course I recommend and advocate, even for people that are currently podcasting, have a show of their own, or especially for people that want to start their own show. Go and be a guest on other people's shows. But don't be boring. Don't be just a forgettable podcast guest on a forgettable episode. I want listeners to be able to remember the guests that I help out, as well as the host to think, wow, that was the best episode I ever had. For example, if a host had Elon Musk on, of course they're going to tout and advertise, wow, I've had Elon Musk on my show. But if they were to ever share or showcase the best possible representation of their show, I want it to be the show that you're on. And that's what I'm telling everybody who's listening or watching me. Is like, if you're going to go and be on a show, be the best possible guest possible.
I had a woman come on the show. It was funny because in the green room we were talking, and Mark, when I tell you, when we read her bio, it was amazing. I'm like, oh yeah, she's going to be a great guest. And she really did turn out to be a great guest. But in the green room, she was not a good green room host. And I'm thinking, oh, Lord, what have we done? Like, she is so boring. And she was kind of mean. And I was like, oh, my God. Like, oh, how is this interview going to go? But it wound up being a really good interview. And she was just so, what's the word? She was so uptight in the green room. And and so I said to her, have you done, podcasting before? And she said, did you read my resume? And so me was like, well, I read your resume, but it didn't say you did podcasts before. And she's like, well, I speak. I was like, oh, okay. Still don't mean you did podcasts before, right? So this is the conversation we were having in the green room. I was like, oh God, this is going to be not a good interview. But she was really a good interview. And so that can kind of throw you off too. Now, the good thing about it was I knew I had to show up as a good host. So I was like, even though she just I'm like, okay, she sucks, but let me go ahead and do the best I can. And then she turned out to be a really good interview. So can you give people a few tips on what makes them a great guest? Because when I'm on shows, I try to be a good guest. I try to be a little animated. Not try to be. I am animated. If you haven't figured it out yet, world, I'm a little bit animated. But I try to be a good guest by bringing them great information. What are some of the things people can do to be a great guest on other people's shows so they can say, oh, I need to have them on my show? Because I do that. Like, I'll listen to an interview. I was like, oh, I need to talk to that person.
Mm-hmm. Well, first and foremost, be conversational. And I think a lot of people that feel like they're comfortable talking, like B-level and C-level public speakers, A-level public speakers get the podcast game and they understand to keep it conversational. Where B-level and C-level public speakers, they feel like, oh, let me go on my big monologue. Like, no, don't do that. Mm-hmm. As I stated before at the top or mid of this show, if you go on a monologue, if you disconnect with the host, you disconnect with the listener. So people that speak a lot, and I found this a lot with, obviously I interview a lot of attorneys and academic professionals that are used to basically filibustering to their students or to a judge and jury. Mm-hmm. And that's not what podcasting is about. So that's the number one thing to keep in mind. Even if you're good at talking, keep it conversational. Keep a running timer in your head, and if you feel like you've hit 60, 90 seconds, bring the host in and then continue on the conversation. Maybe you have a long story, but you need to plan your own segments. Otherwise, a host is going to jump in and interrupt you, and maybe you don't get back on that task, and it's going to sound like a very disconnected interview. Has that ever happened to you, Audrey, where you
Yes.
had a guest on and they just talk?
Yes, and it's so funny because you don't want to be a rude host and just jump in and cut them off. But it's like, and I'm like, take a breath, like breathe, stop for a second, let me get a word in. But yeah, that happens all the time. And, I remember when I used to do radio, and I would bring people on. They would call into the station. I would talk to them. A lot of those people had media training. And I don't even know if they still do media training right now. But a lot of my guests had media training because a lot of the bookings came from a media trainer. So that was a part of her package. Like, she would send them through media training, and then she would find them places to be interviewed. So podcasting had just kind of kicked off. So it wasn't like what it is now. So you had regular radio. So you had to be able to get on regular radio to talk. But that has happened to me quite a few times. Like, more times than I can count, Mark. More times than I can count.
Certainly. Hey, regular radio, terrestrial radio, can be the flip side of that coin because they have to fill up airtime. Podcasts are great because they're just as long as they need to be. In fact, that's the perfect length of a podcast, is just as long as it needs to be. Not a 50-minute show, not a 30-minute show. It's like a piece of string. How long of a piece of string do you need? As long as you need it to be. And that's the way podcasting is. But radio people are used to the flip side where they have to fill in time, so there's a lot of like pointless banter and things that really doesn't add or progress the show along because they're just looking to get to their next traffic update, their the next hour where they're going to basically repeat the same skit, that sort of thing. So sometimes radio people, it's hard to break them out of that. And you'll recognize podcasters that are new to the podcasting scene but have lots of radio experience because they bring some of those, I'll go ahead and call it out, some bad habits to podcasting. Works great terrestrial radio. It does not work well for a podcast.
When I was on radio, I didn't have music. I have just like my show's pretty much set up now, except I didn't do horoscopes. It was straight talk like we're doing now. So I was kind of doing podcast format back then. It was talk radio. And so I interviewed people. I played a song at the beginning, my intro. I don't think I played any music during the show. Like now, I like music. So I don't know, when I first put on that song Brighter Day, I forgot to take me out of the frame. So you saw me going like this. And I was like, oh crap, I'm still in the frame. I just love music. So for me, it's a great way for me to get pumped up to do the show. But I was doing this format on regular radio. And I got into radio because someone actually invited me to be a guest, and he liked me so much he asked me to be a host, and I was like, oh great. And then I went from there to hosting a show by myself. And so that particular space, and listen, I never went to school for journalism, and I'm sure journalists, professionals, like, yep, we could tell, and that's okay, because I am who I am. You're gonna get what you're gonna get. But I love this space so much. So now you have Podcast Academy, Guest Academy. What does that entail, and why should somebody come through the academy? Because I know why I probably need to go, trying to be a guest. But let's talk to the people.
Yeah, so at Podcast Guest Academy, we show people how to find the best podcast for them and their message, how to reach out to hosts in a way that will actually get them booked on a podcast, and then, of course, how to perform those interviews well, and that's where we focus a lot of our time and energy, and then how to leverage those podcasts for their book, brand, or business. Now, podcasting industry has got huge. As I said earlier, there's over 2 million shows on Apple Podcasts, and it turns out that many of those shows are interview-based. So hosts need guest experts, such as yourself, Audrey, to come on and share their knowledge on their show, much like you invited me to come on. And thank you, by the way,
You're welcome
for doing that. So there is a demand for podcast guests, but good podcast guests will stand out. And that's what I help people do, is to stand out. Because podcasting has grown, now there are so many podcast directories or podcast guest directories that people can pay for. In fact, there's 3 companies based in Atlanta that I know off the top of my head, and that's just based in Atlanta, Georgia. There's probably a couple dozen worldwide. And sure, they serve a purpose. You basically put your podcast guest resume up there, and people can sort and filter and find you and then reach out to get you booked. But I find the conversions from those podcasts, when I get interview requests from those channels, aren't as high because they treat podcast guests as a commodity. So we show you how to find the best podcast for you and your message, and then how to reach out, a cold outreach to those hosts in a way that will actually get you booked. Shows that have a large number of downloads say yes to cold outreaches. Very few. So shows that have more than, say, 1,000 downloads per episode say yes less than 5% of the time. Shows that are just getting off the ground, they say yes about half the time. Now, I'm not saying that big shows are the best shows, but if you want to get out on the big shows, you need to have a method to how to get to yes and book those shows. And then, of course, there's all the things that we were starting to talk about before, and we'll probably talk more later on, is how to perform those interviews well, and then what to do on those podcasts so you can leverage them later to build your own book, brand, business, what have you.
It's good you talked about the directories, because I'm on a paid platform now, a paid guest matching platform. I'm not seeing any results, and I'm thinking now, does my story suck? I thought it was pretty good. It always opened doors for me. When I say I'm an inventor of the first plus-size fashion doll, and I run a TV network, and I run a podcast, it normally opened doors. But I haven't gotten any guest requests from this particular platform. And I'm like, I'm going to give it one more month, because maybe people just haven't been up there. But I don't know. So how do you pick the best platforms when you're trying to be a guest on somebody's show? Because I'm thinking this was a good one, because I think I saw you up there. And I'm like, well, if Mark is there, I'm going to be there. And I haven't gotten any good results as of yet. Is it too early for me to see results, or should I be doing something extra to make sure they see me?
I really can't speak to those directories, and you're right. I am on a few of them because I am in the podcasting industry, and because I focus on guest excellence. And because of that, a lot of those companies reach out to me and say, hey, Mark, we would love to put your profile up there. And of course, I always want to keep my finger on the pulse of the podcasting industry. I say, sure, let's do it. And then I do my part to fill out my profiles as much as I can. Sometimes I try to do that. On some platforms I haven't, just to see what happens, because it's all testing and research. I'm a data guy, if you can tell from my education and background. But again, even to get to your point, even when you start to get those interview outreaches, I would say, honestly, for myself, about one request per year is a request. I say, like, wow, this person really wants me on their show. It's a show that aligns with what I can share and would want to share and would be of value to me, and say, yes, I will do that. I personally believe that people should identify the elements of a show that you want to be on, find those shows, and then reach out to them. Again, it's a little harder, but the payoff is so much more worth it.
That has been helpful for me. Like, I've just been able to send out my bio and say, hey, this is who I am. I'd love to be a guest on your show. That has worked well, but I've been so busy with everything that's going on with the, coming to a video, because I've done over 500 episodes at this point, and I've never done video until Monday. Monday was my first time doing video. And I was like, okay, I'm trying to expand the show. I'm trying to grow this local brand. I need to be out there more talking about the whole thing. And I was like, to save me some time, I'll get on one of these platforms and podcasters are going to come look for me. Not the case yet. Not the case yet. So just trying to figure that whole thing out. Now, I want to give y'all some perspective. Mark said there's over 2 million podcasts available right now. Listen to this. I spoke at She Podcast in Atlanta in 2019. At that particular time, that was just 2 years ago, keep that in mind, it was 775 podcasts. That was September 2019. 775.
1,000. Just less than a million.
Just less than a million.
Yeah. Not 775, but 775,000.
775,000.
Yep.
We're at over 2 million. 2 years. The industry has taken off in a huge way. Why do you think that is?
Because the technology barrier has lowered. It's so easy now for people to start a podcast. In fact, there's many of free podcasting platforms out there. Again, it's not to say that those are the platforms for people that want podcasting success should use, but they're out there and available. So yeah, that is a huge number. But there are aspects and things you can look for both qualitatively and quantitatively in a podcast to find out, if this makes sense to be on your show. For example, you've got over 300 episodes. One of the 7 criteria I tell people to look for is look for a show that has at least 10 episodes. Because a vast majority of shows never get past episode 7. And in fact, there's tons of podcasts out there that only have 1 episode. It's basically somebody saying, test, is this thing on? They put it up there, and it gets syndicated to Apple Podcasts. The feed is still active, so Apple Podcasts says, well, nothing's broken. This audio is still there. Bing, that's one more podcast. But again, that's not to say that there's 2 million great shows that people are competing with. There's a much smaller number. And among those smaller numbers, you want to be the best guest possible. So I've got a big job ahead of me. You've done over 300 episodes. 5. I've got a lot of work to do to be among the top of 300, but I'm going to do my best.
Mark, I've done over 5. I'm at 507, I think. It was crazy because when I was looking at the number, I was like, I said, Georgia, I think I'm about to hit 500 podcast episodes. We were having lunch, and so when I looked at it, I think I was at that particular time, it was 493. And I was like, 7. It was crazy. But Mark, I think for me, it's because I love this space so much. And I love getting to talk to great people and just sharing great stories. And so a lot of my podcast is about news and what's going on around Gwinnett County. But the other side is really being able to talk to great people, share my experiences as a business owner. I've been an entrepreneur for 24 years. Been in media for 18 of those 24 years. And so to me, it's just a great way to just talk and share stories and hopefully inspire people to say, you know what? I need to do something that I love right now. I don't care how raggedy it is. I'm just going to do it. Like I'm looking at your background, right? And I'm looking at my background. My camera is like this, right? Your camera is like this. And I'm like, yeah, I'll fix it. And I will fix it. But here's the thing. I'm just doing what I love, and that's what I hope to inspire people to do. Like, podcasting is a great space, but take a note from all the people that I interview and just do the things that you love. I had a young lady on last Thursday. I interviewed her years ago. I think it was around 2003 when I had my show called Business with Breakfast, and we were on Blog Talk. And she's like, "Oh my God, I had just started." Years ago, I interviewed Steve Osher around the same time. Now Steve is big in podcasting. Like, he's everywhere with the podcast magazine. He probably don't even remember he was on my little Blog Talk show. But I interviewed him years ago, and it must have been around 2003, 2004. But they have stuck it out in their industry for that long. And so prayerfully, and I should ask him to come on the show too. I didn't, but I think I will. And he's so nice. He probably say yes. So, as a podcaster, I know why I love the space. As a guest host, right? What are some of the tips that they could do moving forward? Like, how do you find the best podcast for what you're doing? Because it's so many, it's so vast. And where do you go to look? Do you go to Apple? Do you go to Spotify? There's so many places to even look. iHeart, where do you look?
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a couple places traditionally. There's some new platforms. I don't want to get into those because they're so new and very very specialized. I could spend about 30 minutes talking about those. But the two big places that people should go to look for podcasts. One is your podcast player of choice. If you've got an Android phone, Google Podcasts. If you've got an Apple phone, look at Apple Podcasts and search for shows within those apps. As well as go to your internet browser and type in something you're looking for, and then add the term podcast, because that will show you the website, or that will show you the podcasts and the shows that have a website presence, which is good for you as a guest, because as you become a guest on that show, then you get a little bit of Google searchability, and if you've got a good show, you want that searchability there. So those are the those are the places to go to look for. Now, as far as what to look for, as I said, you want to look for episode or podcasts that have more than 10 episodes. Audrey, I mean, you certainly qualify there. You want to look for shows that have some ratings and reviews to make sure that people are listening to the show and they like it. They're acting upon it. Perhaps if the host says, "Hey, leave a rating and review," and people do leave a rating and review, that's a good sign. Podcasts with ads. For example, I know you run ads. That's a good sign and indication that companies have found value in your show. They're putting money into that show. And if they find value in doing that, then I possibly could find value in that as well. So that's 3 points right there. You also want to find a show that matches your brand message. If I were to go on a show and talk about real estate, because I do invest in real estate, I could have a very deep and intellectual conversation and talk about some of my experience with real estate and things like that. But that really doesn't drive the needle with what I want to do. So maybe those aren't the best shows for me to be on. And there's other things that you can look for as well. But before I go on, you have any other questions?
No, that's great, because I think this is great information, because I think about, for me, if I'm trying to be on a podcast, I'm always I'll go look for a woman who's a podcast host, who interview entrepreneurs, who have looking for a backstory, an overcomer story. So because I know that those are the people that are going to say, "Oh yeah, I would love to have you on my show," or I say I've been in business for 24 years. They're like, how? Like, how have you done that for 24 years? And 22 of those years have really been full-time working from home. So people want to know, well, how the heck have you done that? So I'll find a show that's looking for an author. I've written books. So I'll find that show. So that's great information. Now, a lot of people, for me, being behind the mic without the camera is a great way. But there are a lot of people who are afraid to even hear themselves speak. Do you help them overcome the fear of just speaking, period, even though it's behind the mic, no one can see them? And I know that they are, because I've heard people say, "Oh my God, I'm so afraid. I don't like my voice." All these different things. Do you help them with that?
We have workshops where we test some of our interview techniques and some of our tactics and toolbox, because I think part of the problem is people don't know what to say or how to stand out or be different, or how to say something 5 minutes into the episode that's different than the framework that they use in the beginning, how to engage emotion, how to engage numbers, and all the different things. Sometimes they're overwhelmed. So providing a little bit of a framework, a toolbox or tool belt, if you will, that people can pull from, like, oh, this is a time for a screwdriver, this is a time for a hammer, this is a time for a flashlight. It gives them some of that ability to do that, as well as workshopping some of this stuff and doing some test little micro interviews on one little tactic, I think helps people. But the honest truth is, most people hate the sound of their voice or feel uncomfortable with the sound of their voice because what we hear of our own voice is different than what other people hear because of bone conduction, right? Without microphones, without headsets and everything, when you're talking to somebody, the voice you're hearing is part of what's coming out of your mouth, but also bone conduction. So you hear something different than everybody else does. But then when that's turned around and people are hearing their voice, perhaps for the first time that other people are hearing, they're shocked. But that's the case for everybody who has the ability to hear. So once you let them know that, then I think that kind of decreases as well. Understanding why it is they hate the sound of their voice, because they're not used to it, because of the whole bone conduction thing. I think once people understand that, they're like, oh, okay, I'm not different. My voice isn't horrible. Everyone feels this.
Yeah. It's so funny. I've never heard it explained that way because even me, I know I talk fast and I try to slow down. I've been in conferences where I'm talking and my husband is in the back going like this, which means slow down. And so I have to be conscious of that and slow down because if not, my words get jumbled up and I'm like, man. But, I got to the point where I was not going to let that stop me from doing what I wanted to do because I felt like if I worked on it, if I'm conscious of it, I could work on making it better. And there are times on the show when I'm talking so fast, I forget what I'm saying. I'd be like, okay, what was I saying? I'm saying this to myself. So I think I've never heard of the bone conduction thing. So that makes sense. I have a granddaughter. She's 2 years old, Mark, and she has this thing about sound. Like if it's loud, she goes loud noise, and she goes like this. And my daughter goes. So she took it to the doctor to get her checked out. Like why does she do that? Like we took her to the circus, and we thought she would love all the music and the animals. She's like loud noise. So it must be the bone conduction, which is interesting.
It could be. It could just be audio sensitivity. I'm kind of the same way. I don't like loud noises. I think because I work in audio. And then when I'm not working in audio, my pastime is consuming audio, whether it's like podcasts or audio books. So yeah, I'm very, very sensitive to loud noises as well. But now that you understand the bone conduction and why the voice that you personally hear is different than everybody else's, doesn't that demystify it a bit for you, Audrey?
It does. Yeah. It really does, Mark, because I had never heard that before. And it's so weird because what I hear right now coming out of my mouth, when I go back and listen to this episode, sounds nothing like that. And I say to myself, ooh, that was kind of nice. That was pretty cool. But when I'm listening to it, it doesn't sound that way to me. It sounds like, okay, girl, you are just, And then I go back and listen to the episode, and it's like, oh, that wasn't so bad, So now I understand. But here's the thing: I wasn't gonna let it stop me. No matter what I hear right now coming out, I got to keep going. So let's talk about sound for a minute when it comes to microphones. Like,
sure, your
sound is amazing. I have two microphones. I have one that costs $30 on this side, and I have one that costs $130 on this side. And honestly, Mark, the one that's $30, when I listen back to this episode, sounds way better than my $130 mic. What's a good microphone for the people that are starting out? Because I know one of the things that you want to make sure is that your host can actually hear what you're saying. You got to have good internet. Here's the thing. Sometimes you can't control technology, just so you know, because I got like the highest speed Verizon will give me and for my internet, and I still had a glitch. But as far as sound quality, microphones, what should they get? Because I have two different ones, and I have two different ones for two different reasons. And I tell you, the $30 mic sounds a lot better than this other one. And I'm looking at yours, and yours look like neither one of mine.
Yeah, mine isn't a good microphone for most people. This is a shotgun microphone, typically not used for podcasting, typically used for movie production and filming because it allows me to be a little further away from the microphone. It's very sensitive in a particular range, but if my room isn't treated just so, it can pick up a couple things. So this isn't a microphone that I'd recommend for most people. I have a ton of microphones over on the shelf that unfortunately I don't have the camera set up, but because I get a lot of microphones, and some of those sound great. It's funny you bring that up because when I saw the image popped up, I recognized that microphone. I can tell you exactly why it's sounding the way it does, and I can give you a 1-second fix that will make it sound better.
Go.
All right. Is that a Blue Yeti?
Yes.
Okay. You have it pointing directly at you, don't you?
I don't, because it said don't point it directly at me. It's pointing.
Correct.
It's pointing like this way.
Okay. All right. Well, that's better. So at least it's pointing about 90 degrees off of you, because the way that microphone picks up is from the sides, not the top. But a lot of people point the Blue Yeti at them, while the sensitive portion is aimed at something hard and reflective. So then what it's going to pick up, you're talking about like the sound quality, it's not picking up your direct sound, it's picking up what bounces off a hard surface and then back up to the microphone. And it may sound echoey or washed out or a number of things. But yeah, as far as like microphones, simple is better. There's lots of, as you mentioned, $30 microphone can sound great. So a cheap microphone, even one that plugs up USB without all the cables and mixers and interfaces and all that sort of stuff, it really just comes down to microphone technique. So if you have one, I don't have a handheld microphone nearby, so I'm not going to grab it. But if you have it like right here, and you're speaking across of it, that way it's not getting all the plosives and the P's or the breath. That is good because that way it'll pick up your voice, but not all the air being pushed in and out of your mouth. So a lot of it comes down to
microphone
technique.
That's pretty
cool.
But
I will say that there is not one perfect microphone for everybody, because the female voice is different than the male voice. So the different frequencies and patterns, plus what you want to present, may be a little different. For example, NPR radio. When I say that, you probably have an audio memory and image of what NPR radio sounds like, or sports radio.
Right.
They have different audio profiles and different audio presentations, and there's different microphones that are keyed and tuned to make you sound more like NPR or more like sports radio. And maybe you pick up something that, well, everyone says this is the microphone to get, but you're trying to go for a different audio output and profile, and so it sounds washed out to you. So there's not one best microphone. I will say, do get an external microphone and learn how to use it, even if it's a $30 microphone. Because if you try to use a webcam to do an interview, these webcams that I'm pointing at right now, hello everyone that's watching us live, webcam microphones, yes, they have microphones, but they're meant to pick up audio from everywhere. They don't discriminate. So they're going to hear everything that happens by just my voice. So an external microphone is really going to up your quality.
That's interesting, because I've had my Yeti for a long time. Like, I think my husband bought it probably 2010.
If you only paid $130, I think they're $250 now.
Yeah,
because they have great marketing.
Yeah. So I had it since then, but and my nephew bought me this mic for Christmas a couple of years ago. And so when I listened to the audio, because this is hooked up to the video, this one is actually hooked up to my podcast studio. And when I went back and listened to the video, I'm like, wow, that's some really good audio. But when I went back and listened to the podcast, it didn't. Now, it sounds good, but it doesn't sound anything like this one. I was like, man, that's crazy. But that's good to know. So what I understand you to say that if you are in sports and you know that you want to come across as this great sports announcer and you want to get on sports podcast, you may need to look at which mic is going to help you best present yourself to that podcaster, so you'll sound kind of like them, kind of like mirroring. Like, you know what I mean? Like they say, mirror the person in front of you. So I heard that. So that's a good point. I like that. I've never heard that either. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. And for anyone who's watching or listening to this later, if they want to hear some microphone brands, for example, the Heil PR40 is about $400, and that's going to give you kind of like a sportsy type sound, where a Shure SM7B is going to give you that NPR fresh air type sound. And as far as like easy to use USB microphones that sound pretty good and comparable to those other $400 microphones, and those microphones are power hungry and they need special adapters and interfaces in order to get those into your computer. So you're spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars. But if you spend $50 to $100, perhaps even $30 on something like a Samsung Q2U or an Audio-Technica ATR 2100X, I believe, those are going to work about 80% as well as those other microphones at a fraction of the cost. And truth be told, that's when you focus on your content delivery, what you say and how you say it, and how you take pauses and how you follow up with hosts and how you give the microphone back to them. That's more important than spending the hundreds and hundreds of dollars on those high-end microphones. Is get something and then learn how to deliver top quality information on a podcast.
You're right about that. Last year in January, right before we went to Podfest, I had just opened up a whole podcast studio in Decula. And so I have like the high-powered microphones that eat up all, you're right, you need all kinds of systems and wires and mixers and all that kind of stuff. So I have those outside in the garage in a box. I was like, okay, I don't need those here. I'm going to leave those there. Maybe one day God will bless me with a new studio. But, you know, after the whole Corona thing, we shut down really quick because everything shut down. So, you know, I was like, well, these work fine. They're very small. They don't take up much room. I don't have the arms all over me like I had in the studio. So, but one day, hopefully, I'll be back in the studio. So, Mike, this has been great. I mean, a lot of great information. There are a lot of people who probably do want to get on podcasts but don't have a clue where to start, don't have a clue about how to pitch. How can they reach out to you and your team to help them to leverage this podcasting platform to make them, you know, help them build awareness for what they're doing and what in their message?
Sure. Well, they can check us out over at podcastguestacademy.com. That's our paid academy where people can join and learn how to be the best guests and find the best shows for them, and then leverage those shows for the highest ROI, the highest conversion possible. But if they're not ready for that, I've run a Facebook group called Podcast Guest Experts, and we're connecting hosts and guests there all the time. We're sharing some snippets of interview techniques. It's like the Academy Lite version for people that just want to stop in and see a little bit on Facebook. The Academy has everything we've ever done in a searchable format, but sometimes we'll drop some things inside the Facebook group or even do some exercises live that may sit there for a couple of days, and then of course everything resides in the Academy in perpetuity. So those are two places, podcastguestacademy.com, or in the Facebook, find a Facebook group of Podcast Guest Experts. That's me.
And listen, guys, you want to be a guest on other people's podcasts because it also, depending on their domain rank and page rank, it links back to you and your page and your website, which gives you some juice. And trust me, people will Google you. I was at an event. I was vending at an event, and I had some books on the table that I had written. And this woman walked up. She picked the book up, Mark. She looked at the book. She didn't say anything. She just looked at the book like this, and she looked at it like this. She put it down and she walked away. And I was like, okay, you know, I had spoken, hi. She's like, hi. And she looked at the book and she turned it around and she walked away. She came back about 30 minutes later and she picked the book up again. And she said, I would like to purchase this, and could you sign it for me, please? And I said, sure. She said, yeah, I Googled you. And I said, what did you find? She said, oh my God, a lot of, and then she just started talking. So people will Google you and they will listen to you. The other thing too, Mark, and I know we're out of time. Other podcasters, when you go to be on their show, they will ask you, have you ever been on anybody else's show? Because they want to see how you interview. That has happened to me several times, and I was like, oh, they want to see what I'm talking about, and then I get to be on their show. But before that, it's like, can you send me a link to something you were on or somebody that interviewed you? So what I did was I put not all of them. I put a lot of the links from me being interviewed on my website, so now they can just click it and listen. So I know that's important as well.
It is important as well to get on other shows, as well as if you're an author selling books or some professional selling services or products, if they can go somewhere and like, oh, I see all these people that have interviewed you on different shows and you get to listen to them as like a third person talk about their expertise, then yeah, it helps you cross that conversion hurdle even on your website. So you can leverage other people's podcasts on your website to get on other shows, but as well as to get on and sell your products and services.
Absolutely. So thank you again so much for being my host. You have been great. Listen, Georgette books the most amazing people for me, and I have to always thank her because, you know, I'm all over the place. She's not like me. She's not all over the place doing 9 million things. I am. And so because of her, I get to interview great people like Mark and Dawn and Chris and everybody that has been on this show. So thank you, Mark, so much for being my guest today. And, you know, what you shared has been helpful to not just to my audience, but to me as well, because I've read about the microphone. Now I'm going to look into some other stuff to make it sound better, and I'm going to fix my camera. It's like I'm looking at the camera, like I got to fix my light. So I have light this way. Listen, Listen, this is my first week of videos. Y'all gotta forgive me. I will be fixing it all so that it looks nice and crispy by the end of this month. So everything will be perfect. Not perfect, but it'll be good, because who knows, some tech problem may happen again anyway. So Mike, thank you again for being my guest. I'm sure I'll be able to come to the next event for Podcast Atlanta. Wait, quick. Podcast Atlanta. Tell everybody about Podcast Atlanta, because that. Wait. Let me say this first. Why is Podcast Atlanta not the first? Who's the first largest? Because you got second largest.
Yeah, we're the second largest. We've been doing this for almost 5 years now, a long time. The number one largest is, in fact, Chris Comissos, the guy who co-founded Podfest. They've been doing theirs for about 11 years. So they got a big head start on us, but our membership is only maybe 100, 150 behind them. Of course, coronavirus threw some things in there as far as like trending and everything. But in the last few years, we've gone from non-existent to the second largest local podcasting group in the world, which is fabulous. Which also obviously makes us the fastest growing. So it's a local podcasting group where we get together for events on a monthly basis. And of course, we took a hiatus with coronavirus, but we'll be back strong soon with some hybrid events. And I'm working on some technology to where people can finally meet in person, as well as leverage the best possible things of meeting online. So those that can't make it in person can attend online, and we still feel like we're in a room with each other without taking away from the physical experience and the virtual experience. So I'm excited to start testing that in about a month.
All right. So listen, I had to tell you that, because that's what Mark and I met. We met at Podcast Atlanta, and that was about 2 years ago. And so we have stayed connected. So that just shows you the power of meetups and meeting great people in your space. So again, thank you so much. And you have a wonderful, wonderful weekend.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. All right, listen, guys, I'm going to my last song for the day, because you know what it is. It's my Friday. I know it's my Friday, but I know it's really Thursday, but it's my Friday. I'm going to go to my last song, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to give you my word of inspiration. So stay tuned.
Desperate for the dawn.
Welcome back. So listen, guys, that's all I got for you today. But before I go, I got to give you my word of inspiration for the day. And here goes. If you're not willing to risk the usual, you will settle for the ordinary. Let me say that again. If you're not willing to risk the usual, you will settle for the ordinary. Jim Rohn said that, and he was absolutely right. Listen, there's nothing ordinary about me. And I hope there's nothing ordinary about you. I will go against the grain every time, no matter what the outcome is. Because here's the thing, I never know what the outcome is going to be. I will risk the usual to go for the big thing, the big pie in the sky. And sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes you can't be so safe. You know what I mean? Sometimes we want to play it safe, but we want the big thing. Sometimes you can't play it safe. Sometimes you got to go against the grain. You got to risk the usual. If you don't want to be ordinary, I ain't ordinary. By now, y'all probably figured that out. She's not ordinary. She's very different. I am. And I make no apologies for that. None at all. And you should neither. Be you. Be you. You don't have to be ordinary. You don't have to do what everybody else is doing. Do it differently. Do your thing. Do it your way. I do this show my way. Yes, sometimes I'm piecing things together. You heard me say I got 2 different mics. I do. And you're going to get 2 different sounds. Here's the thing. I'll make it better. But it won't be ordinary because I'm not ordinary. And neither are you. You are extraordinary. Georgette probably would love that. You're extraordinary. I know. Your word for the week was desirable. But I'm telling you today, you're extraordinary. Thank you again for listening. You could have been anywhere in the world. But you spent the last hour and 7 minutes with me. Well, 12 minutes if you're on Facebook and Roku right now, because that's where we're streaming at. You spent the last over hour with me and Mark. I hope you enjoyed his interview. Be sure to show him some love by going to take his academy. Listen, if you want to be a guest out there on podcast, which is a platform that you should be looking at if you are in business or you trying to promote something, you might want to go take Podcast Guest Academy. Go to the academy, sign up, because this is a powerful platform and it's growing. I just told you in 2019, it was 775,000. Now it's over 2 million and it's growing. Samsung just said, you know what? We want to get into the game. So they're putting out an app. Apple was the boss at one point. Spotify came along and said, nope, not by yourself. It's growing. That's how fast it's growing. Even Pandora has podcasts. Now they're very selective about who they let on them, but they have them. That just shows you that this is an industry that's not slowing down anytime soon. Good Morning Gwinnett is pretty much everywhere, even on your Alexa. If you got an Alexa, so Alexa, open Good Morning Gwinnett and you'll find it there. Be sure to follow me on Facebook at Good Morning Gwinnett. Follow me on Instagram at Good Morning Gwinnett. And follow me on the Twitter at GM Gwinnett. Also, be sure to download the Good Morning Gwinnett app from the App Store, because there's an app for it. If you got an Android phone, there's an app. If you got an iPhone, we got an app for that. And if you want to get the whole thing, the whole videos and everything from this show, download the Noise Media Network app to your Roku, to your Amazon Fire Stick, to your Android TV, and to your Apple TV, and to your cell phone. There's an app for that. Listen, I love this space. I'm in it. I'm in it to win it, baby. So I want y'all to join me. Thank you again for listening. Stay safe out there. Tell your family and friends how much you love them and care for them. I'll be back again Monday at 10 a.m. I'm going to Sedona. I'm about to go to Arizona. Yes, I am. And I'll bring back pictures, so be sure to check it out. Tell your family and friends you love them. Stay safe. Until next time, y'all, make it a great day. Bye now. Here we go. Cue it up. Music.
You've been listening to Good Morning Gwinnett. Make sure to tune in Monday through Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time to find out what's happening around Gwinnett. If you like this episode, subscribe now and share with your friends. To learn more about Noise Media Network, visit noisemedia.us.